What is up, you guys, and welcome to my YouTube channel. If you're new here, my name's Mackenzie and I'm an artist, and if you're not, thank you for coming back. So, just jumping right into it, I had a different idea for today's video. I didn't want to do the same thing again. I don't want this channel to be just stained glass all the time, because I feel like that's kind of a dead end, and there are so many different areas that I like to explore in art and creativity versus just staying in stained glass. So I want to show you guys as much of that as I can. And one of my all-time favorite things to do is go to a secondhand store or a thrift store, find something old and make it into something new and beautiful. So on that thought process, this is what today's video is going to be. I'm going to turn this old crappy mirror into this. So if that sounds interesting, let's go. Okay, so obviously I've already started to work on the outer edges of this mirror, but I didn't want to go any further without you guys. There were like big chunks of things glued down to the outside of this frame, so I had to rip those off, and then there were big thick globs of glue left, so I had to use a Dremel to really sand all that crap off and then go in and hand sand as smooth as I could get it. It does still need a bit more sanding, so I'm gonna do that and then remove the mirror, paint it black, and then we can get to the fun stuff. So I've got my big jug of black paint right here. I'm just gonna go over those areas that need a quick touch up with a sanding block, and then we can paint. Okay guys, so like you saw in that finished picture I just showed you, there's gonna be quite a few steps to getting this mirror finished. There is gonna be 2 stained glass moons, but I don't even know if you can classify them as stained glass moons because I didn't realize you could see me down here. What's up? Okay, so there's gonna be 2 stained glass moons, very, very small. It's not really stained glass because I'm just gonna cut out 2 moons like you saw to put on the top and the bottom. There's gonna be glass etching. So there's gonna be quite a few steps to this mirror, so I'm gonna try to go through these simple parts as quick as I can. So like I said, I already did the majority of the sanding on this mirror, so I'm just gonna go back in with my sanding block and touch up any last minute areas that need it before I can go in and paint. But before I do that, I wanna remove the mirror. That way all I'm working with is the frame and I don't risk scratching this mirror. Okay, frame is painted totally black. And I just wanted to mention really quick, the reason I most of the time use an acrylic paint is because it's gonna turn out matte. I like everything to be matte black. I don't know why, that's just personal preference. So obviously you guys can paint this any color you want it, white, pink, it does not matter. My personal preference is a matte black, so I use a black acrylic paint. Or you could use a matte black spray paint. The reason I didn't use a spray paint today is just because it's too cold outside, and matte spray paints can be super, super finicky when they're drying, and sometimes they won't dry a solid, smooth matte if the temperature is off or the drying temperature is just messed with. So I just simply went in with a black acrylic paint. But now that this is done, I'm gonna wash off my paintbrush, and while we're letting this dry, we can move on to the glass etching of the actual mirror. Okay, so I cleaned off the table again. I got my frame drying right over there, and like I said, now we can move on to the glass etching. But first we need to make our stencil. So I've got a Sharpie, I have an X-Acto knife, I've got scissors, I've got the stencil of the shape that I want to cut out. Again, you guys can pick any shape you like. Personally, I'm just going to go with a simple crescent moon, a very deep crescent moon, because I want to still be able to use the mirror or as much real estate on the mirror as possible to actually see a reflection. So I'm going to do just a very simple moon so it matches those moons on the top and bottom. So I've got my moon stencil, my scissors, Sharpie, X-Acto knife, and right here we have adhesive vinyl. So these are transparent adhesive vinyl sheets, perfect for stencil making. So the reason we need it to be sticky is so when we lay it on top of the mirror, we don't have to worry about any bleeding with the glass etching cream, which I will show you guys once we get to that step. But it's a lot easier to use a sticky backed stencil, so you don't have to worry about the stencil moving or anything, and when we wipe it away or wash it away with water, the stencil can still be on there, and you don't have to worry about that. It just makes it a lot easier. It's gonna come out a lot cleaner. And you can get these right on Amazon. Like always, guys, I'll link everything down below, or everything I can. So obviously right now they have a white backing to it. You can see that it has a grid on it, I suppose just to make it easier for whatever you're cutting out. But like I said, today we're just doing a super simple crescent moon. So this crescent moon is actually one of my stained glass stencils, but it's the perfect size for this mirror that I have. So I'm just gonna put these pieces together and make the stencil. So unfortunately, we do have to kind of be wasteful here. I don't know a better word to use it. But because we are glass etching, we're gonna need the negative of a stencil. So it's not like we can just go in with this moon and use that as the stencil. We need protection around the outside of our hollow stencil, so we can just lay the glass etching cream right on top. And then we don't have to worry about any glass etching cream getting on the outside, because as soon as it touches that glass or mirror, it is going to mattify. So we just want to be as careful as possible, give ourselves plenty of space around the outer edge of our moon. So I think this will be okay here. I'm probably gonna cut right along this edge. That way I've got tons and tons of extra space. So if I do go over the edge with the glass etching cream, it's not gonna be a problem whatsoever. So I'm gonna mark those grids and cut that out before I draw my stencil. Okay, so cut out our square. Now we can draw our stencil. Like I said, we want it to be right in the middle. That way when we cut this moon out, we have all this space around the outside as a buffing area for the cream. Okay, so I've got my stencil drawn. Now I'm just gonna get a cutting mat to cut this on top of with my X-Acto knife. That way it doesn't dig through and damage the table underneath it. Now you gotta work really, really slow, because you do have to put quite a bit of pressure down to cut through both of these layers. And you don't want to go over the edge, so I find it's just easiest to work really slow versus trying to rush. Okay, we've got our moon cut. So obviously you can keep this piece for any other project. I don't want to just throw it away, so I'm going to keep this crescent moon with the rest of my extra sheets. So I'm just going to flip this over and quickly look over the moon, make sure I like the actual shape of it, and that we have no rough edges, which it does look pretty good. There's just a little spot I can pick out right here. And I think we are already ready to glass etch. So I'm going to clean up my space, grab some Windex, the mirror, clean it, and then we can get to glass etching. I'm going to line this up. And before we do anything, when you're using glass etch, so it's armor etch is what it's called, this stuff is no joke. So I'm going to read to you the exact warning that's on here. So, danger, causes burns, which may not be immediately painful or visible, but they may cause permanent damage to the skin, eyes, and respiratory tract. So, that means you should be wearing at least gloves, no matter what, glasses, safety goggles, and a respirator or a mask. So, like I said, it's called armor etch. And again, I'm going to link everything down below so you guys can go right to Amazon and find it. It is a very thick, paste-like substance. But I just wanted to show you guys what this looks like because it's not super easy to work with. So because it's a cream, I'm gonna use a brush to apply it onto my stenciled shape, but we have to move as quickly as we possibly can. So again, I'll read the directions. Okay, so I don't have the box still, so I looked up online the directions so I can just read it verbatim to you guys. So, spread the etching cream over the stencil. Only the area you want to be etched should be covered. Use a paintbrush or a popsicle stick to spread a thick, even coating over the area. Wear gloves to prevent any of the irritating cream from getting on your skin. Stir the cream twice over 5 minutes for a more pronounced etching. Use your brush to move the cream on top of your stencil. At about the 1.5 minute, 3.5 minute marks, do this to break up the air pockets that will cause uneven etching. So we definitely want to do this because we are etching such a large area and we want it to be as even as possible. Of course, it's probably not going to come out perfect, but that's okay. We don't need it to be perfect. So it says leave the cream for 5 minutes. Overall, including the stirring, the cream needs to stay on the glass at least 5 minutes. So after we lay our etching cream down, it's laying there for 5 minutes. The very last step is to just rinse it off with water. I don't think I'm gonna be able to show you guys that part because I don't wanna touch the cream. I don't wanna have to pick the camera up, run it to the sink. But just know, as soon as we're done waiting that 5 minutes, I'm just running it over to the sink. So I'm gonna wet this area and just rinse it off as quick as I can. But first, let's actually etch it. So, now that I've gone over directions, I'm gonna put my safety glasses on because this stuff getting in your eyes, I can't even imagine how bad that would hurt. I've got my mask here, which I'm gonna stick on as soon as I'm done explaining everything to you guys, because I want you guys to still be able to hear me. So I'm gonna grab a ruler, that way we can make sure it's in the direct center of our mirror and we can lay it down. So what I'm gonna do is just mark this top corner of where my stencil is gonna go. That way I don't have any Sharpie underneath where we're actually gonna be glass etching. Okay, now we can pull it off. So I'm just getting rid of any bubbles that are on the edge of our stencil, making sure that this is really stuck down. Okay, so before I even start, I'm gonna pull up my phone and I'm gonna put a 5-minute timer on it. All right, so we've got our 5-minute timer ready to go. That way, as soon as we're done laying down the entire thing, we can start that timer. Now we can actually armor etch. So like I said, I've got my paintbrush here and I'm gonna lay a thick layer down on top of the glass. So I've got a thick, I'd say pretty even layer over our entire area. I think we should start our timer now. And once we hit about 1.5 minutes, 2 minutes, we're gonna go back in and kind of disrupt the area to make sure that there's no air bubbles coming through. and no spaces that we missed. All right, we're 2 minutes in. I'm gonna go back in to disrupt this area, make sure there's no air bubbles. So it's looking pretty good, and if you guys use this, you'll know it does have a very odd texture. It has almost like chunks throughout it like this, which kind of mess up the area. So I'm just going in, moving around all these chunks, making sure everything is laid down even. Gosh, this stuff smells so bad, you guys. But it looks really cool and it's easy and fun to use. All right, finishing the rest of our timer. 2 minutes and 30 seconds to go. That is time. I don't know if you can hear it in the background, but I've already got warm water running in my sink. Like I said, I'm gonna leave this stencil on. I'm gonna turn it on its side like this and simply wash it off as quick as I can, get all this glass etching cream off. Okay guys, it is looking pretty cool. I'm excited. It actually, I think this is one of my best glass etches yet. All right, I'm just gonna quickly dry this off and then we can pull it back and I'll zoom you in closer. Let's pull our stencil back. Look at that, no imperfections in that etching. That looks fantastic. We are already almost done. So I've got this dried off. Our frame is finally dry, so I'm gonna bring our backing, our frame back over here. We can put our mirror inside, then we can get to making our stained glass moons to secure to the top and bottom. Okay guys, I'm not gonna go super in depth on making these stained glass moons because I do already have specific videos dedicated to glass cutting, grinding, wrapping, soldering, foiling, anything on my channel already, which I can link down below. So I'm just gonna cut out my 2 moons with this. Okay, I got my moons cut out. Next step is taking them to the glass grinder to smooth down all the edges before we can foil and solder them. Okay, I've got both of my moons fresh off the grinder, nice and smooth. Just gave them a quick rinse. And now we can wrap them in foil. Okay, so I've got my 2 foiled moons and gonna go in and solder. Okay guys, that is it for soldering. So I'm just gonna clean off my soldering iron tip, put fresh solder on, shut it off, and wash my 2 moons. Okay, back at my desk really quick to patina these. Okay, just gave my moons another quick wash, so they are nice and clean, and we're ready to mount them to our mirror. I'm gonna mount a moon right here and here. I wanna quickly measure so we have our exact center. You zoom me out a little more. So we have our exact center, and then we can lay them down. Okay, so the brand of glue I'm using today is actually Quick Hold. I did end up going back to AC Moore to get that, what was it called? Glass, metal, and more glue, because I really, really liked it, but I can't find it anywhere anymore. And the only place I could find it was on Amazon, but they wanted like 20 bucks for it, including shipping, which I was not doing. Test small layer before use, apply directly to each surface. So that means we're gonna have to put glue on our wood and on our glass for both pieces. And we have to allow it to cure 1 to 2 minutes before we mate our surfaces. So that means we have to put our glue down on our wood and our glass, let it sit for a minute, then we can place them together. And as it said, you have to put it on both surfaces. So I'm gonna put a nice dab on the wood right there. A nice glob in the center of my moon. And we're gonna let this sit for a minute. Okay, so I've let this glue sit for a minute. And now I'm just going to simply mate these surfaces together. I think that is just about it, you guys. We have made a old, crummy, crappy looking mirror look super cool. All right, let me change my view so I can show you the final product. Okay guys, I don't want to hold this up too long because the glue isn't done curing yet. I will flash a picture at the very end if I get it hung up, but I don't want to hold it up too long because I don't want the glue to fall since it's not done setting yet. Ooh, we're upside down. That's better. That's the perfect shaped moon. I'm super, super happy with how it turned out. And that glass etching, it just came out perfect. That's the best one I've ever done, hands down, as far as no imperfections within the actual glass etching itself. Okay guys, like I said, that's it for today's video. I hope if it wasn't super informational like my videos usually are, I hope it was at least entertaining. So thank you for watching. And as always, I'm going to link everything I can down below. So any products I used, any products I mentioned, any other videos I may have mentioned, they'll all be in my description box, as well as my Instagram and my Etsy. So if you like this kind of content, go check me out over there. And if not, I'll see you next time. Bye.